We are a 501c3 organization that works to promote Clarion County, connect businesses with resources, and also look to attract business opportunities to our county. If you're not familiar with an EDC, if you are outside of Clarion County, I would greatly encourage you to do some research. We can help you get connected with an EDC in your county if you are elsewhere. If you are within Clarion County and you're not familiar with EDC, I would be very happy to follow up with you, give you more information on the work that we do, as we're always looking to connect those resources. And this webinar really is a good case in point, looking to bring the information that the Northwest Commission has to businesses to be sure that they are always able to consider opportunities that they might not presently be considering. But that in a nutshell is what we do. I will pass it back to Melissa.
Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for that information. And of course, on the screen, there's a website to visit CCEDC. And then with that, we're going to kind of move ahead. Give me a moment. My slides are advancing kind of slowly today. There we go. Sorry about that. So in today's session, this is what I'm going to cover in the next hour plus. We're going to briefly give you a quick intro to the PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, which is the program that I work for. And then, of course, we're going to get into some government contracting basics. And then we're going to move over into PA COSTARS, Cooperative Purchasing Program. That is a local government contract vehicle for Pennsylvania. And as we move along through the session, I will ask you to please use that chat box to input questions. You see that it appears at the bottom of your screen. There's a chat, Q&A. Prefer you use the chat. If there's an issue with that, go ahead and use Q&A. And on the line with me today is my PTAC program manager, Robin Young, and another PTAC counselor, Aaron Ritzing. All three of us are with the Northwest Commission PTAC. They will be helping me monitor the chat box, answer questions as we go. And I always invite them to please chime in. If I'm on a specific slide or talking about a certain thing and if you feel there's info I skipped or something worth adding, please feel free to unmute yourselves and chime in. So PTAC, what is a PTAC? PTAC's Procurement Technical Assistance Center. PTACs are free or minimal cost resources to help companies with all your government contracting questions and needs. We help with federal, state, local government contracting level. All three of those different animals, I guess, in the government contracting market. There are three separate markets there. SAM registration, for example, that's a registration we help with for federal level contracting. State contractor registrations when you're talking state level contracting. Set aside programs, maybe something you're familiar with or not. There's specific socioeconomic certifications in government contracting, and we can be a resource and help you through those. Pursuing contracts, so whether that be as a prime or a subcontractor in the government market, we can help you with any and all aspects of that. Things like solicitation reviews, bid and proposal process. What are you looking at here? What's in that 80-page solicitation document? How do I put together my bid, and how do I properly submit that bid? All of those things, PTAC is a resource for you. There's a link to our website where you can learn more about us. There are PTACs all over the country. Northwest Commission PTAC just happens to be based in Northwest PA. We serve the 8 counties in the corner of the state. That doesn't mean we're limited to just looking for opportunities for you in that area. We will look across the nation for opportunities, across the globe actually, for opportunities for you in government contracting. This is myself and my PTAC colleagues and our contact info. The way we handle our program is we split up the 8 counties amongst us. Companies based in Erie and Warren counties would work with Robin Young. I help companies based out of Clarion, Crawford, and Lawrence counties, and Aaron Ritzig covers Forest, Mercer, and Venango. There's our contact info. And before we get too far, I'll let you know we will share these slides with everyone in attendance following the presentation. We have a survey that will pop up when you leave the session. We'll ask you to fill that out, and within that is a place to request slides and the recording if we make that also available. So if you would, please do that. We're happy to share this information. So the PTAC is just one of a few programs that are hosted by the Northwest Pennsylvania Regional Planning and Development Commission, the Northwest Commission for short. And we like to share that little bit of info on, those other programs. These may be a resource to you, your business, someone else that a colleague in the business community or local government. So we will, kind of quickly share you that, a list of those other programs. So we're going to run right now. We're going to roll right into the main part of the presentation. Government contracting basics. So we are going to really discuss a high level, very basic intro to government contracting and the government market. So one of the first things we always talk about, why should I even think about selling to the government? Well, our answer is really, why not? U.S. government is the largest buyer in the world. Department of Defense is the biggest buyer on the planet. In general, across the board, the federal government, hundreds of billions of dollars spent annually on millions of items and services. Local, state, and federal governments, could be a potential lucrative market for your product or service, and the government can be a loyal customer. So one thing to think about, who should sell to the government? It's important to have certain things in place if you're going to step into this market. Have an identifiable product or service. Your company has, record of success. It's a stable company. You have a desire to expand into this market. Of course, you'll find out as we talk today, computer and internet capability and access. Everything's online now. You're looking for those opportunities online. You're bidding online. You're, doing market research all online. Of course, possessing resources to dedicate the time and effort to pursuing opportunities in government contracting. And then, of course, it's important to have your entire team or company on board. It's not very helpful if just your sales department decides they want to sell to the government. Well, the person who's got to sign off on those contracts isn't the salesperson. It's got to, company owners need to know what you're getting into, because there are lots of regulations and rules that you must be compliant with that will affect company-wide. And what does it take to get into government contracting? These are just, a short list, having adequate financial resources and accounting controls to manage these contracts. Of course, your experience and technical skills, having proper facilities and equipment to do the job. Once you were signed off and submitted a bid and accepted an award of a contract, you have to perform that. You have to be compliant with delivery and performance schedules, of course, and then having a satisfactory performance record and a satisfactory record of integrity and business ethics. I'll be talking about being responsible and responsive later on, and being responsible includes those last two bullet points. So then we talk about entering the government marketplace. Who exactly does that mean? And then, as I had mentioned at the beginning, federal, state, and local government are the ways we break it down. And in local, we consider nonprofit to be part of local government if that nonprofit's receiving government funds to operate. Just some quick examples, of course. Federal, of course, you think of Department of State, or like Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense. And then within those, there are many, many buying offices within those agencies. For example, Department of Defense, you think Army, Navy, Air Force. And then under Army, that breaks down even further. For example, Army Corps of Engineers, or Navy has Naval Supply Systems Command, or NAVC, many, many buying offices within the federal government. And then on the state level, of course, you're thinking of state agencies, PennDOT, PA Department of Education, PEMA, those sorts of organizations are what we're talking about on the state level contracting. And not just PA, any state, you know, they all break down similarly. And then of course your local or nonprofit, those government entities, thinking of things like townships, boroughs, municipalities, school districts, libraries, organizations that receive government funding to operate, like economic development organizations like Northwest Commission, for example. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about government market, and when I say federal, state, local. Each of those, you know, they're separate, there are similarities in how they operate, but they're all separate markets. Then of course, when you're thinking of entering the market, you want to know, you know, what does the government buy? Are they buying what I sell? So that's process of doing some market research, which of course, as I mentioned, PTAC is a resource for that. Any and all of this assistance. Federal government, every solicitation for procurement that goes out is labeled with a NAICS code, North American Industry Classification System code. Knowing those industry codes is a piece of the puzzle when doing market research. There are also product service codes, you know, knowing, you know, having a good list of keywords for your product and service. You know, these are all things you use public sites to do market research. And maybe in the process of doing your market research, you realize the government does not put out contracts for my product, but my product or service is part of a larger kind of contract. Maybe you're finding out subcontracting is your best fit. So then, you know, let's research prime contractors that may be needing your product or service to fulfill a government contract that they hold. So then, of course, it's just as important knowing what the government buys as to how they buy. These are thinking about, there are rules and regulations, right? This is taxpayer dollars being spent on items and services. So there are specific procurement regulations that must be followed by the buyer and the seller. Being familiar with that, what are you getting into there with regulations? How are they buying? What contract vehicle are they using? For example, there's what's called in federal contracting, GSA schedule contracting. Maybe you find out in your market research, well, the thing I sell is mostly bought through a GSA schedule. Then we need to look at how do we get you on a GSA schedule? That's just one example. There are a lot of different kind of contract vehicles. The state has different vehicles too, like an invitation to qualify contract. So knowing how they're buying what you sell is just as important as knowing, you know, what they sell. Excuse me, what they buy. So becoming procurement ready. So in all of these things, when we talk about, let's get into government contracting, and especially in federal contracting, you may hear the term procurement ready quite a bit. What does that look like? So becoming procurement ready means really determining if your company is ready. So sort of that list of items that I had up there on the screen earlier. Are you an established business? Does your business plan to include government contracting in your growth, entering that market? Researching, of course, you know, the demand for your product or service. Is there a market there for me? Where is it? How do they buy it? Just as I talked about. Will your company's cash flow be compatible with government payment cycle? So, you know, you're not going to get paid with the government till that product is delivered. So are you going to have cash up front to cover those expenses? And when we talked about being an established business, you know, usually we will say it may take a year or two for you to really get into the government market. So these are things to be, you know, going to dedicate the time and effort to it. So this is what we talk about being procurement ready. Another piece of the puzzle of becoming procurement ready. I talked about things like NAICS codes and product service codes. Knowing those helps you do your market research and finding where opportunities may be in the government market. NAICS codes used by the federal government, product service codes. So NAICS codes are kind of general industry codes. Then the next level would be federal supply codes or product service codes, or a little more specific to that thing that you make or that service you provide. Those are two coding systems that federal agencies use. And there are some links to help you kind of research that. No one tells you what your codes are except you. You determine your NAICS codes, your product service codes, or your whatever industry coding system. You choose those based on the capabilities of your company. In Pennsylvania, when we talk state level contracting, the state uses what's called UNSPSC codes, United Nations Standard Product Service Codes. So there I have some links to places defined or tools you can use in determining your appropriate codes for your company. I'm going to note quick on the bottom there, the UNSPSC, that link takes you to a page on the Department of General Services site, and within there, there is a subcategory where there's a link there. You can access UNSPSC code directory. And we talk about market research, right? You'll hear me say that quite a bit. That's a lot of what we do here at the PTAC. That's, of course, you know, assess the demand for your product or service, right? You're going to do that with commercial customers too. You do the same thing in the government. You got to do your market research. What agencies are buying what you sell? How does that agency buy? You know, where do they post their opportunities? Federal government uses a site called sam.gov. Maybe that's a place to start to just begin looking to see where your product or service fits in the market. Pennsylvania uses PAE Marketplace. Getting to know, and then once you know maybe one or two agencies to focus on, these are the agencies that really are buying what I sell. Let's get to know those agencies. Federal agencies all have small business offices. And then, like I said, when you're discovering subcontracting is your best fit, you're getting to know that company and you know their subcontracting rules, regulations, points of contact. I talked about sam.gov. So registrations, when you're stepping into government contracting, there are going to be websites, portals, online systems where you will be registering. Like I said, federal government, System for Award Management, sam.gov. Linked to sam.gov is what's called the Dynamic Small Business Search, if you qualify as small for government contracting, which I'll talk about. You will be in the SBA, Small Business Administration, has what's called the DSBS database that's linked to SAM. And Pennsylvania has what's called the PA Supplier Portal. That's where you register to sell to Pennsylvania state level agencies. And of course, there are many other, like I said, portals, systems, online sites where you may register. For example, PennDOT has a system called ECMS, or if you're interested in selling to Ohio state agencies, they have a database. Or with prime contractors, maybe you do your research and find out they have a database they'd like subcontractors to register in. And we always at PTAC like to make sure everyone is fully aware. SAM.gov, PA Supplier Portal, Dynamic Small Business Search, these are all free. These registrations are free for you to do yourself. Of course, we are here and can help you, right? We do that a lot. Many people we've helped walk them through a SAM registration because it can get kind of involved and confusing. PA Supplier Portal registration is much simpler, but if you need a hand getting through it, we will be happy to help you. They're free. You will get, unfortunately, you may receive many calls, emails, a lot of spams from companies that will tell you for several $100s, we can do your SAM registration and your annual renewal for free, you know, through us. That's, if you want to pay that, you can, but we would tell you that's not money well spent because we can help you. You can do it for free. We can help you for free. Because PTACs are federal and state funded, we offer our services free of charge to the companies that we help. So we are, like I said, we're a free resource. We can help you with any and everything we talk about today. And of course, on the note of those registrations, being aware of when expiration dates are. Mainly you have to renew almost annually with most of those sites. And then we move into becoming procurement ready. When you're looking at a solicitation or opportunity you want to bid on, there's going to be rules there. Maybe that 80-page solicitation you look at, 3 of those pages actually talks about what they're buying, whatever that government agency is buying, and all the rest is terms and conditions and FAR regulations. So, those buyers in the government have rules they must follow, and so do the suppliers. So, knowing your terms and conditions that you have to follow, and your contract clauses. In federal government, that usually rolls back to the FAR, Federal Acquisition Regulation. Other agencies within the federal government have supplements to the FAR. In Pennsylvania, for state level contracting, it's the PA procurement code. And also I really added cybersecurity requirements. I made sure I added that today. That is becoming more and more important, especially on federal level contracting. You may not realize you submit a bid, but within that you said, I'm compliant with cybersecurity regulations, and you don't even know what those may be. So those are, again, things we can help you with, and what you need to be aware of when you really just don't want to just jump in and throw out a bid on something. A lot of homework has to be done first. Things you need to know and understand. And another aspect of becoming procurement ready, learning about small business certifications or verifications and set-aside programs. So in federal government contracting, a set-aside would mean that there's an opportunity posted somewhere, a solicitation out there, an invitation for bids, but it's set aside for WOSB. What that means is only certified women-owned small business firms can bid on that. So they're limiting the competition, or maybe it's set aside for small business. Again, only a small business can bid on that opportunity. And then those are the socioeconomic categories you will hear when we talk about small business set-asides: woman-owned small business or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business or service-disabled veteran-owned small business. There's what's called an 8A program run by the SBA for small disadvantaged businesses. Hub zone program certification. And then on the Pennsylvania and the state contracting side, PA also recognizes small businesses or small diverse businesses, veteran business enterprises, and then small disadvantaged businesses are also another category for like Department of Transportation opportunities. So all of these you can find out, will help you figure it out if you qualify for any and all of those. You can qualify for one or more, but there's usually a process of a verification or a certification through a third party you may need to go through to obtain that certification. And also something we can help with. Like, for example, when we talk about set-asides in federal contracting, the federal government has the goal of setting aside 23% of its contract opportunities to small businesses. And then in addition, there's, they have a 3% goal for hub zone, to go to hub zone companies, 3% goal to go to SDVOSB, that's service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, a 5% goal to go to woman-owned small businesses, and a 5% goal to go to small disadvantaged businesses. So you can see where there could be some opportunities there. You may have an advantage, bidding on something, especially if it's a set-aside, knowing if you qualify. Now, I will make a quick note. In federal contracting, we say small business. There's not a certification for small business. It has to do with your NAICS codes and the size of your company. But other than that, a lot of these other things listed here do require some kind of verification or certification. Then, of course, Marketing your company. You don't just, sign up on these portals or sites and just sit back and wait for your phone to ring. You're going to, things we can help you with understanding marketing your company, where and how to do that, how to prepare for it. You'll hear the term capability statement a lot, especially in federal government contracting. That's a marketing piece, so one-page document, kind of a resume for your company. We have a whole presentation we can do on that, but again, when we work with companies one-on-one, these are things, we'll work with you and make you aware of and help you get these marketing piece put together. Attending, are you ready to attend any networking events? You're going to talk to any prime contractors you discovered that you might want to have as a customer as you did your market research. Very large prime contractors have subcontracting goals to small businesses and those other socioeconomic groups listed in the previous slide. Getting to know them, how should you be prepared to talk to them, or, agencies you want to reach out to. Every federal agency has an Office of Small Business Programs, or sometimes they're referred to as Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. That's because of those goals I just mentioned. Federal agencies have these small business offices, and those may be, a door in to doing business with a specific agency. And of course, I said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it throughout this presentation, utilize the PTAC. We offer one-on-one consulting and all the things I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation today. Our one-on-one counseling sessions are confidential. We offer training workshops like today's session, and other sessions we offer throughout the year. We help you with things like the solicitation reviews, how to properly put together your bid, how to properly submit that. Really anything and everything. If it's government contracting related, you are welcome to reach out to PTAC to get help finding answers. And I will note, if anyone on the line today is outside of the Northwest PA region, you're still welcome to reach out to us, and we can get you connected with the PTAC that would serve your area. So I just wanted to pause and see if anyone had any questions. If you want to use that chat box, make sure you selecting to hosts and panelists, or to everyone, so we can be sure to see it, or the Q&A. I'm not seeing anything. So we will continue. So as I talked about those levels of government contracting, federal, state, and local. The PA COSTARS program is one such local government contract vehicle that is specific to Pennsylvania. Give me a moment for my slides to advance. There we go. So what is COSTARS? A lot of companies that come to us have heard of COSTARS. They're a little confused, or they really want to jump right into it. So basically what COSTARS is it's a cooperative purchasing program. Now the PA Department of General Services kind of manages and runs the program, but it is a contract tool that is specifically for the use of local public procurement units and state-affiliated entities. And the goal of the program is to encourage, expand, and facilitate the opportunities for the members of the buyers, to achieve procurement savings and the best value through an interactive partnership with the Commonwealth. It provides increased opportunities for suppliers of any size to participate and compete for the COSTARS members' business. And another goal is to provide contracts with competitive pricing. And how do they do that? What does that mean? Was what we're going to get into a little bit more here. So first off, I do like to clarify some terminology. When we talk about COSTARS, the COSTARS members are the buying organizations. Those are the local public procurement units and state-affiliated entities. And specifically what that means, an LPPU is any political subdivision, such as a municipality, a school district, or another commission, any public authority, such as anything that falls under public transportation law, organizations like that, any tax-exempt nonprofit educational institution or organization, or any tax-exempt nonprofit public health institution or organization, any nonprofit fire company, rescue company, ambulance company, or any other entity that spends public funds for the procurement of their supplies, services, or construction are considered LPPUs. State-affiliated entities include organizations like the PA Turnpike Commission, PA Housing Finance Agency, State Public School Building Authority, Pennsylvania Higher Education Facilities Authority, State System of Higher Education. Those are all examples of the state-affiliated entities. So those organizations or entities are considered the COSTARS members. Also important to note that those organizations that want to utilize COSTARS for their procurements have to register with COSTARS to use. It's free, but they have to sign up to become a COSTARS member to use the program for their buying purposes. And on the other side of the coin, COSTARS suppliers, of course, are just that. Those are the suppliers, vendors, contractors that have gone through the application process and they are approved to sell through the COSTARS program. So just like I talked about earlier, knowing not only what the government's buying, but how they buy, one of those things in how they buy, following those rules and regulations, right? So in Pennsylvania, there are some buying thresholds that a lot of those LPPUs and state-affiliated organizations must follow. If it's applicable to them. So to give you an idea of how that works, there's their dollar amounts and how they go about doing a procurement. So anything below, and that number changes annually. These thresholds change annually. Currently, if a LPPU has a need and they find it's going to be below 11,800, there's no advertising, no competitive bidding. They can call up a vendor and buy what they need. And then the next level up is between, over 11,800 and below 21,900. It's a process of getting some formal quotes, going with the lowest bid, and over that 21,900 is more of a formal bidding process that's required. Now, one of the advantages to a COSTARS member is that if they use COSTARS program, those thresholds up above there, they're already meeting that. By purchasing through the COSTARS program, those members meet the procurement requirements of the PA procurement code. And as I mentioned, the LPPUs and state-affiliated entities, they have to register with COSTARS to use the program as a COSTARS member. And then, of course, talking about the member side and the supplier side. Well, what are the benefits to the parties involved here? For the members, they're allowed to negotiate with awarded suppliers to choose best value without additional advertising, legal time, and clerical expense, right, of the formal bidding processes I just noted. COSTARS contracts allow the COSTARS members to choose suppliers based on whatever criteria they think is important. Is it price, geography? Do they want to stick with buying from a COSTARS supplier that's in their local area, in their county? The quality over price they may choose. So, member benefits are there. Supplier benefits on the supplier side, we'll momentarily get into the supplier process here in a moment, but this is more of a access to a large PA customer base. There are thousands of registered COSTARS members out there. You have the option to customize products and services that you have on your contract. That necessity and cost of going through that formal bidding is eliminated. You're just going to do it once through the COSTARS process. You can negotiate just as the members are allowed to negotiate with you. You may or may not, want to do that, but you can be open to that. Reliable payment from a government, local government entity, potentially increase sales and profit. And then the COSTARS also offers a lot of access to marketing and training tools as well. So, there are benefits to both sides. I think ultimately the goal is to save taxpayer dollars through this program. So, looking at being a COSTARS supplier, what does that mean? What does that look like? So there are two different types of COSTARS contracts. There's COSTARS-Exclusive and COSTARS-Participating contracts. You do some research, find out what contracts may cover your product or service. There's an application process, whether it's an exclusive or a participating contract. There's an application process or a bidding process involved. So then those contracts are awarded to responsible and responsive bidders. I mentioned being responsible bidder, and responsive means you are responding to that invitation for bids in just the way that they're asking for it. Cross your T's, dot your I's. You're giving them all the information they ask for the way they ask for it. Now, most important that most people want to know right at the beginning of COSTARS on the supplier side, there is a fee to being a supplier on this program. It's an administrative fee that essentially just keeps the program running, pays for the program to be in existence. The way that fee structure breaks down, if you are a Pennsylvania verified, Department of General Services verified small diverse business or a veteran business enterprise, your annual fee would be $166. A self-certified small business is a process you go through with DGS as well. That brings your annual fee down to $500. And all other bidders, large companies, would be $1,500. So there you can see that there's benefit to if you qualify to doing the self-certification and the verification process. Excuse me. The self-certification and the small diverse or veteran business process are done through a system with Pennsylvania called PRISM, which I'll touch on here momentarily. And as long as you pay the fee every year, you will stay on that contract. If you decide in a few years that it's not worth it for you to be on it, you just don't pay that annual fee and you're no longer on that COSTARS contract. But then in the future, you decide you want to be back on that, you go through the process again and begin paying that annual fee once you're accepted. And I mentioned COSTARS-Exclusive and COSTARS-Participating contracts. COSTARS-Exclusive contracts, there's a limited number, about 30 or so numbered contracts that are multiple award, meaning multiple vendors or suppliers are on these contracts. They cover, a variety of products and services. These COSTARS-Exclusive contracts are based on those local public procurement units' needs, and they're exclusively for registered COSTARS members to use for their procurements. On the other side, the statewide or ITQ contracts may or may not be. There's a long list of these statewide and ITQ contracts that the state has. Some of those are COSTARS-Participating. Now, what that means, they are based on the needs of the state agencies, and they may allow a COSTARS member to buy through that, which means then that a COSTAR, as a supplier, you would apply to be on that statewide or ITQ contract, and then you would opt in, if it allows that option. You can opt in or out of being a COSTARS supplier under that contract, and you still have to pay the annual fee. Under COSTARS-Exclusive, there is some products and services may allow for ancillary services to be added, making things customizable. On the COSTARS-Participating side of things, products and services are purchased as quoted specifically on that contract. And then another thing to note, COSTARS-Exclusive contracts, that list of 30 or so contracts, are, of course, as I said, awarded to responsible and responsive bidders through the application process, and they're continually open for bid. So you can bid at any time. With a PA COSTARS-Participating contract, whether that's a statewide or an ITQ contract, an invitation to qualify contract, those are not always open for bids. You know, you have to do a little research there. But that's, in a nutshell, the difference between the two. I understand that can be a little confusing. And again, we're kind of just going over basics here, but if, you know, as you have questions as we go through this, you know, be sure to reach out to us and we can get in more depth on any and everything we talk about today. So COSTARS, you know, how do you know what's being sold by under COSTARS contract, whether that's COSTARS-Exclusive or COSTARS-Participating contracts? This handy guide that is posted online by the COSTARS program is available online. And I would always say this is the place to start. Whether you're a buyer, whether you're a municipality or one of those LPPUs looking to purchase through COSTARS, you can quickly see what is or may not be covered by COSTARS. And of course, as a supplier, finding out, is my product or service even something that's offered through the COSTARS program? So I'm going to quickly show you what is in this guide to COSTARS contracts. So I'm going to stop share and then access this guide so we can go over it quickly. Okay, so now you should be looking at the menu option there that's coming up. Guide to COSTARS contracts, 20 pages, and it's going to go through, in a nutshell, each COSTARS-Exclusive numbered contract and what is covered in that statement of work. Now, as a supplier, as long as you offer at least one of those things, you can apply to be on a COSTARS-Exclusive contract. So you're going to see these are the categories: copiers, document imaging, IT hardware, office, school and library supplies, janitorial supplies, software, food, quite a range. The MRO, the maintenance, repair, and operations equipment, supplies and services covers quite a bit. We have a lot of clients that, a lot of things that they sell fall under this category. Graphic and printing services, toiletries, emergency responder equipment and supplies. So the list goes on. Like I said, there's over 30. Recreational and fitness equipment, water, wastewater treatment consumables. Traffic signal modules, waste recycling materials. So, you look at these and quickly see, example, COSTARS 18. LED vehicle traffic signal modules. And they get a little more specific, 8-inch, 12-inch. LED countdown pedestrian signal modules, traffic signal parts and accessories found on PennDOT bulletin. So, if you're seeing your product listed under one of these categories, you may want to go, pursue getting on a COSTARS contract. Lab supplies, pest control, municipal work vehicles, passenger vehicles. So this gives you an idea, groundskeeping services and supplies. So not everything and anything is covered by a COSTARS contract. So this is the place to just begin to look to see what's covered. Now, again, this section is COSTARS-Exclusive contracts, and you'll see they're numbered. I think we get up to about 41 or 42 is as far as that goes. And the COSTARS-Exclusive contracts are based on those local public procurement units' needs. So those last two are relatively new to the list of COSTARS contracts. So those local government units can communicate with Harrisburg, with the COSTARS office, and if there's a category of product or service that's purchased frequently that would be nice to have as a COSTARS contract, you know, they may add a COSTARS 43 may come up for another, you know, category product and service. So then after that, following that in the guide are these participating contracts, those statewide contracts or invitation to qualify contracts. They're a little bit different. As I said, that chart, these may or may not be open for bid. They may, you know, some of them are 5 years long. You have to wait 5 years till you have your opportunity to bid on it. And then once you bid on it, you're selling to state agencies. And then if you opt into the COSTARS aspect of that contract, that opens it up to the local government offices can buy through these. The ones above are strictly for the numbered contracts above are strictly for those local government entities to buy from. These participating contracts, purpose is for the state level agencies to buy from. And oh, by the way, we're going to let local governments buy from this contract as well. So if you're on this as a supplier, you can opt into that aspect. So it's quite a list. As I was doing some research, I saw somewhere COSTAR says there's over 100 of these participating contracts. And then of course your points of contact. So this of course is a very good starting point. And when we share the slides with you, that link there will be live. I'm also happy to see if I can't, I'll just put this right in the chat box so you can pick that up. And let me get back to our slide presentation. Okay, skip ahead to where we left off. One moment. There we go. Someone had asked about, not being able to put anything in the chat box. If you wanted to ask questions and you're having trouble inputting into the chat box, please use that Q&A box. If that works for you, hopefully that will. Okay. And I want to put in for you, as I said, here's the link to this guide in the chat box for everybody. Should see it there to everyone. So you can click on that link and have a nice quick access to this guide as we discussed. So you look through the guide or the participating contracts or the exclusive contracts, and you think there's a fit there for you. What does it look like to be, becoming a COSTARS supplier? What are your responsibilities? Of course, you got to comply with all the terms and conditions in that contract. You're only permitted to sell the items or services listed within that contract and only selling to registered COSTARS members through your COSTARS contract. COSTARS requests quarterly reporting of sales. You will get an email requesting that quarterly from COSTARS office in Harrisburg. And of course, you've got to pay that annual admin fee. And they also request that you maintain current company profile data. And you'll see where that is when we look closer at step by step through the process. So those are your responsibilities as a COSTARS supplier, looking at entering that, applying for that contract vehicle. Now the steps to know what do you need to do to become a supplier exactly? Well, first of all, you're going to read and be familiar with your contract documents, your statement of work, instructions, specs, terms and conditions, and I'll show you how to access those in a moment. You have to be registered as a vendor in the PA supplier portal. As I talked about earlier, those registrations you got to look at on the state side in Pennsylvania, that's being registered in the PA supplier portal. When you register in the portal, you will receive a 6-digit PA vendor ID. It's also referred to as a SAP number sometimes when you're looking through PA state level contracts or the COSTARS program. SAP number and PA vendor ID are the same thing. That's what you get when you register in the PA supplier portal. And then if applicable, we talked about that, the price range, the breakdown of the admin fee. So if applicable, if you're a small business or a small diverse or veteran business, you may want to get that certification done. Now, like I said, that's done through a portal called Prism, which again, we can help you out through those steps. And what being a small business in Pennsylvania means that you're a for-profit, independently owned, not dominant in your field of operation, and you have no more than 100 full-time employees. And the business may not exceed a 3-year average gross revenue of $38.5 million. So if you are under those thresholds, and most of the companies we help are, you can self-certify through this Prism portal to be a small business. And it's a process of logging on to this portal. You're going to provide 3 years of tax returns for the company, answer some questions, and then you would become a DGS registered self-certified business. And then further, if you qualify as diverse, being a minority-owned business, a woman-owned business, a business owned by an individual with disability, a veteran-owned business, business owned by a member of the LGBTQ community, you can further get verified as small, diverse, or veteran business. Those, again, though, you have to get a certification. For those categories I mentioned, there's a third-party certification you would obtain first. Then you can go in after you've done your self-certification as small and add those additional certifications or verifications to qualify for that category that gets the $166 annual fee. So you've done your registration, you've read through the documentation. Next, you're going to submit you're going to electronically submit your bid package on COSTARS exclusive contract. Participating statewide or invitation to qualify contracts. As part of that, there will be a form, an election to participating COSTARS form that you can submit in your response to that solicitation. And then, of course, you pay the annual admin fee. And as we're talking about, the members, the buyers, and the sellers, and COSTARS, some important things that you should be aware of. Even though a COSTARS member may sign up to buy through the COSTARS program, they are in no way required to do that. So maybe they sign up for COSTARS as a member and they never use the program, or maybe somebody who held that position in that agency or office left several years ago, and the new person in charge of procurements may not even be aware of COSTARS. So, or they may be new to it and just signing up for the first time. They don't understand the program. They don't have to buy through COSTARS. So there's no guarantee of sales through COSTARS. And the COSTARS program and PTAC, we will always tell you, it's really your responsibility once you become an approved COSTARS supplier. You really want to get the most bang for your buck. You're going to want to market the fact that you are on a COSTARS contract to those potential customers, those COSTARS members. And like I mentioned before, COSTARS has some tools and tutorials available and for that aspect of for COSTARS suppliers for marketing, and we are also happy to help. And there, we are PTACs. We're here. We're very familiar with this process. We've helped many companies go through the application process and help answer questions, get them through that. So, of course, we're here as a resource, as I say over and over again. So the key to becoming an approved COSTARS member, that website is listed here, dgs.pa.gov/COSTARS. Now from this site, and I'll have some screenshots, and if we have time, I'm happy to go live on the site and kind of navigate through it with you. But from that site, there's a lot of tools and resources available. Specifically that COSTARS exclusive contracts, the list there, you're going to find those documents you're going to need to be familiar with and be ready, you know, as you to prepare to electronically submit your bid. You can also use this website to search current contracts. Who is your competition going to be? Who else is on this COSTARS contract that you're interested in? You can look at their information and their pricing and see, you know, will you be competitive or not? Or who else is on this contract with you? All things you can do through the COSTARS main website. So here's what it looks like when you're on the COSTARS landing page. And for suppliers, you're going to see that COSTARS supplier information option there on the right menu. You're going to click that. From there, you'll see a lot of resources available, as mentioned. You know, there's tutorials, some brochures and marketing pieces on, you know, becoming a COSTARS supplier. What we're mostly going to focus on is getting to the electronic bidding opportunities. This leads you to that paperwork, that all-important paperwork when you're getting ready to submit your bid electronically for a COSTARS-Exclusive contract. If you choose that option, you're going to see COSTARS bidding opportunities. Now, what this is a list of those numbered COSTARS-Exclusive contracts and what's called the invitation for bid documents. So you determine, let's say you're interested in, you know, COSTARS 6 for janitorial or whichever contract you pick, COSTARS 1, copiers, document imaging. You click on that number, the solicitation number there on the left, and here you're going to see the invitation for bids information, the contract scope in general, you know, bid opening time 1:30 p.m., but bids will be accepted at any given business day. As I noted before, those COSTARS exclusive contracts, you can bid anytime. The commodity specialists, point of contact, if you've got questions, Kathy Garman, that's who's going to be, when you submit your bid electronically, she's the one who's going to be looking at that. And here are those documents. I would suggest first, you know, you get here, let's open all those documents, download them, print them, let's read through them so you know what you're getting into. Your instructions, all the specs, your terms and conditions. That's where you access those for each individual COSTARS exclusive contract. And then when you're ready, if you decide you're going to go for it, this is also where you would bid now. You start that electronic bidding process. So when you click that bid, start your bid, the first thing that comes up is you know, you're going to input your tax ID number. You need a tax ID number to register in the PA supplier portal. And then, of course, once you do your registration, you get that 6-digit PA vendor ID number. So you're going to input your tax ID and your PA vendor number. You're going to click Find My Company, and you start the process of submitting your bid. And you'll see here, this is 19 steps for this COSTARS 1 contract. So what the rest of those steps look like? In general, you're going to be providing supplier profile information, a primary contact with your company, your PO and payment details. There's a nice tool that, since you already spent the time registering in the supplier portal and already input a lot of information on your company there, there's a button there that you can click. It's labeled as copy. We'll pull that info right into your application, and then you can, you know, change as needed and fill in any blanks. Through the process of electronic bidding, you're going to acknowledge all those documents there that you should have already downloaded and read through, the instructions, specs, other forms. Reciprocal Limitations Act is one of those forms you're going to be aware of and acknowledge. Sorry, just checking the chat box there. So if you're selling products, you need to know the state of manufacture if it's outside of the US, you know, the country of manufacturer, so have that prepared. Also, you may be required to provide a manufacturer's authorization letter for, you know, selling those products. So those are things to expect to be uploading as you go through the application process. Pardon me, my slides are advancing. Of course, then your pricing. what's your pricing structure going to be? Well, COSTARS allows you to do, your pricing strategy in one of three ways. You can do percentage discount. Are you offering a discount from an existing catalog or a manufacturer's price list? And then if you're doing that method, you'll have an opportunity, you can attach that catalog or the most current manufacturer's price list. Another option for pricing you can do is a percentage markup of your cost. If that's this pricing strategy you are going to present, you may be asked by a COSTARS member to provide the documentation on that cost. So, just be prepared. A member, a buyer may want to know that information. You have to be able to share that with them. And of course, if you're going to do a custom price list for a COSTARS buyer, you'll attach your custom price list that you're offering through COSTARS. Then things like, when we're talking pricing, you're thinking about, are you going to be offering any quantity discounts? There's a place there for you to provide that information as well. And then you're going to answer questions. So there's a standard list of questions that everybody's got to answer when you're applying to be a COSTARS supplier. Some of those questions they're asking is, do you have a minimum order quantity? Is shipping included in your pricing? Are you willing to negotiate your price? The price you give is what you're locked into under COSTARS, but if the COSTARS member wants to negotiate to maybe see if you'll come down a little, that's up to you. They're in their rights to ask for that, but you are allowed to negotiate or not from your price that you provided in your COSTARS contract. I know another question that comes up, do you accept credit card payment? And if so, is there an additional fee on a credit card purchase? So we're going to go through all of these sections within the electronic bidding process. Then you're going to be selecting your service area. You can choose that to be the entire state, or you can narrow down and just select specific counties that you will sell to. If you're offering any ancillary services, there's a section there where you can get into that in your pricing. I'll tell you, most people, when it comes to pricing these extra services, there is an option within the pricing that you can just state that it'll be negotiated with the buyer. And then if applicable, you may be asked to upload authorized manufacturers dealers. So this is your opportunity where if you have other dealers under your contract, you can list those there. They will be under your contract as a dealer selling your products. You're going to acknowledge any addendums that may have been added to the specific COSTARS contract you're looking at, and those will come up on the screen. You read through them and simply check the box that you acknowledge them. Additional forms or acknowledgements you may need to do include, if they're applicable to what the COSTARS contract covers, things like equipment rental agreements or any licenses that are required. I underline experiences and references, so that's something to know ahead of time that you would see in those documents before you begin the bidding process. You may, for some contracts, may be asked to provide experience and references. Maybe they ask for 3 references in the last 3 years, something like that. You want to have that together before you go into do your electronic bid. You're going to acknowledge the terms and conditions, which you should already be familiar with because you downloaded, read through those beforehand. And then the final step is the submission of your electronic bid. Sign off and bid, submit your bid. Now, everything that I've looked at and heard at this time, that reviewing process, once you hit the submit button, it could be 4 to 6 weeks for that reviewer. And then as your bid submission is being reviewed, they may, that point of contact in Harrisburg, commodity specialist, may return it to you for corrections or updates. If that's the case, you usually receive an email notice telling you, giving you instruction on what they need and how to submit that. So to back with this, with COSTARS exclusive contracts, it's a little bit more of a back and forth to get approved. Whereas other contracts, where if you're just bidding on a solicitation, a one-off solicitation for an opportunity, whether that's federal, state, local, if you don't submit that properly, it usually is just not reviewed at all. It's tossed out. But with COSTARS exclusive contracts, you are given the opportunity to kind of get back and forth to get your application responsive, meaning contains everything it needs to, it's updated properly and submitted properly. Once that is done, then you will receive an invoice. So once you're approved for a COSTARS exclusive or a COSTARS participating contract, then you receive the invoice for the admin fee to be paid, and submit that electronically through the PA supplier portal. So as we talked about, I've talked about knowing what the government's buying and how they buy. So this slide, we're going to kind of talk about to give you an idea of what COSTARS member, their buying process when they're looking to buy something through COSTARS. Now this may be what they're doing, and again, they don't have to be doing COSTARS for buying purposes, but if they're going to be buying through COSTARS, they're probably going to be searching that COSTARS website to look at the contracts. They can see their public site. They can see, just as you can use it for your own research to see who's on the contract. Members are going to use that as their tool to find the suppliers. Maybe they're going to call multiple suppliers to get quotes to ensure best value before they make their purchase. They may want to negotiate pricing. Then they may look up if there's a statewide or an invitation to qualify one of those COSTARS participating contracts. They may research those to compare pricing. And then they'll contact the preferred supplier directly. They're going to place their order, probably place a purchase order with you. And they need to, and this is good for you when we talked about as a supplier, you have to do quarterly sales reporting. So you want to ensure that you're keeping track, right, for your reporting, that member is providing their member ID, their COSTARS member ID when they registered as a COSTARS member. They have an ID. They're giving that to you, and that some ways, somehow you're keeping track of your contract numbers on there, so that sale was a COSTARS sale for your reporting purposes. And also a member should be doing that. If they would ever be audited, remember they have to follow the procurement code, that they can show this was a purchase through COSTARS, so I'm meeting the requirements of the PA procurement code. Now, when we talk about searching contracts, we're going to go back to the COSTARS website. And now you can choose the member information link. And this is where you're going to begin searching to see existing COSTARS contracts. Who already holds contracts? What does that look like? You go into the members area. And then there's a search contracts option. A drop down box will pop up, and we're gonna focus right now on COSTARS exclusive. So you choose that top option, and now you're in a site where you can page where you can do searches, and you can see all those different criteria. You can search by contract number. It also breaks down, those we talked about when we looked at the guide. COSTARS 1 had several different categories, so you can search by the category. There's a specific vendor that sells COSTARS. You can look them up and see what, maybe they hold one or more COSTARS contracts, or by manufacturer or dealers. A lot of options there, what criteria or how you may want to search. I did a quick example where I simply just chose, I want to see who's on COSTARS 5 for janitorial supplies. So when you do that, you hit your search button, you're going to get your search results list. This is just part of the list. There's 55, you'll see on the right, 55 records found. These are the folks who are on COSTARS number 5. You can see the vendor's name, starting with A to Z janitorial services, down to Vortec, Buckeye, and you'll see there's 6 pages of results there. You can also use this nice tool at the bottom right, can export to Excel. So you can export this list and all 55 will be there in a table that you can sort and filter as you like. But looking at this page, your contract overview column, that's going to be the same no matter which one of those you choose next to whichever vendor. It's going to be the same document. It's a nice overview of who holds the contract, that company info, and what they're selling under that contract, which categories of product or services they're selling, which counties are they covering. All that information is there. Now you can see an individual vendor's contract using those icons in that second column. That's there, you're looking at the bid item workbook just for that. So for example, if you clicked on that one next to A to Z, you're looking at A to Z's COSTARS contract. What pricing structure did they offer? Are they offering any discounts to COSTARS buyers? And then your contract terms will be the same too. And then if there are any renewals. And that last column's the same person. Emmanuel Williams is the commodity specialist who works for Harrisburg. He's in Harrisburg, worked for COSTARS that manages this contract. So that is, definitely a resource in your market research and how a member, a local public procurement unit, finds out who they can buy from. So I just wanted to see, I think I did have, there was a question, maybe someone had answered it. I believe it was answered. But we'll check again, and I can even open mics here at the end to see if anyone wants to ask right over the computer, ask any questions. So that was a lot of information, and that was just the basics. So of course we are here as a tool, as a resource to help you through, COSTARS specifically if you're interested in COSTARS, but more overall, any government contracting, federal, state, or local, getting procurement ready, getting familiar with what you're jumping into there. How do I find opportunities? Where do I find opportunities? How do I submit bids? How do I read through a solicitation document? All of those things, we're here to help as a resource. And again, I want to thank Clarion County Economic Development Corporation for being a part of this, getting this on our schedule and being able to offer this today. And if anybody has any questions, again, you can use the chat or the Q&A. If you want to raise your hand, we can probably unmute you if you just want to ask a question. And I want to remind you, if you could please take a minute or two. It's a really short evaluation survey. When you exit, leave this session, it should pop up in your web browser. Answer our questions and any comments you have. And then also in that survey, you have the opportunity to request a copy of the slides and the recording if we're able to share that as well. I don't see anything coming up in the chat or the Q&A. If anybody wanted to raise their hand, I can unmute your mic. But otherwise, that wraps it up. And I can understand if you do have a lot of questions. It's a lot of things we covered. There's Jared.
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you, Melissa, for putting this webinar together. These webinars are a lot of work, and it's some really important content, some great information. So for those in attendance, thank you for carving out the time yourself. One of the best takeaways, I think, from these webinars in general is that there's a lot of information, but the resources exist to get granular if we really need to. So these are great overviews, a lot of good opportunities, but these resources, Melissa and the Northwest Commission, our office, other offices like ours throughout the region are available. So continue to dig in, and we can answer questions as we go. But thank you again, Melissa, for putting this on. Yeah, thank you. Our pleasure here at the PTAC. We enjoy doing these and sharing information with the public, and then seeing if there's interest there in the government contracting market. And we are
a resource. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Don't see any other questions, some thank yous, and you're
Melissa,
very welcome.
I kind of wanted to mention something a little
Yes.
bit, add a little bit too. So as Melissa went through all this COSTAR stuff, I was thinking maybe adding a few comments about the COSTARS program. We are seeing more and more of the county agencies, local agencies going towards a COSTARS contract, only because if you think about it, a lot of these agencies, like your township supervisors, your county commissioners, they're all elected officials. And when it comes to procurement process, it's sometimes a little difficult when they're coming fresh with fresh eyes and not knowing exactly what they need to do with procurement policy, because Pennsylvania has procurement policies in place. These COSTARS contracts make it a little easier because all they have to do is find a vendor off of a COSTARS contract and then purchase their goods or get a quote. In the normal ways of doing things, an agency has to put a proposal together, or solicitation, I'm sorry, together. They have to advertise that opportunity, which costs taxpayer dollars. When they buy from somebody off of a COSTARS contract, they can do away with all of that. They don't have to put a solicitation together. They don't have to spend the time doing that. They don't have to so much worry about the regulations, as there's still regulations that come along with these contracts, but it's a little bit less daunting for them. So we're seeing more and more of our agencies going this direction. So if you do have there is an exclusive contract or an ITQO with a piggyback COSTARS, I would highly suggest that you start looking at this, because we're seeing more and more of our companies, because it's becoming a competitive market out there. So please let us know if we can help. I just wanted to put my little 2 cents in, Melissa. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you, Robin. Yes, for sure. And with that, any other questions? Last call. We're going to end the session again. Please, if you don't mind doing our evaluation, we'll share that with CCEDC as well. All right, everyone, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.